time, it turned into...
There was a pretty constant conversation for a good 25 weeks of the year there.
Yeah, that's it. It was... but, yeah, I finished top 4%, so I've got a hard task to back that up now.
Yeah, so we're not Supercoach superstars by any means, but we all finished inside the top 10% last year, so we do have some idea of what we're talking about. We've been playing for a few years now.
Last year was, well, we won't dwell on it too much. Some golden rules you want to touch on Supercoach. The one I break every year, don't burn your trades up. I usually set fire to mine and then throw them out the window while they're burning, so I do like burning early, but... keep some up your sleeve.
Well, that'll be the biggest part with this year with the buy.
Yeah.
Trying not to burn trades. And it comes down to if you're a head-to-head player or an overall player, if you need to or not.
Yeah.
I was definitely more the head-to-head and just turned out to be a good total score.
Yeah.
But it could turn into some weeks where it'll be like, oh, player X has got the buy, player Y doesn't, but player Y should be the one that's been traded out realistically, and it's those little ones that'll be the head scratcher on what am I going to do this week. Yeah, it's going to bring a whole new level to the game.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to. I think it'll slow you down from picking too many players from the one team, to be honest, because you got 5 or 6 blokes from, say, the Panthers, and I think they're a bit round 4's their first bye, so you could be up and flying for 3 weeks and then missing half a side come round 4. So. I think you're really going to have to sort of level it out to maybe having 2 or 3 max from any one team, which will cause a little bit of havoc. But especially in key positions, like obviously your big point scorers generally come from your fullbacks and your halves and some of your back rowers. So you're going to have to sort of limit how many you pick from the one team there with the constant bye, which is going to add that extra layer of head noise for the season. I think it's going to make it a hell of a lot more difficult, to be honest.
Do you... sorry, I'm trying to think of a way to frame this right. The importance of... so in the past, we have... You tend to try and want to carry 2, 3, 4 nuffs on your bench at times. Yeah. Or by nuffs, we mean not players that don't play, or... you can use as auto emergencies or sub in if you need to or trade if you need to. I think there's a thought you probably need to... You can't now. You probably need to have a depth. You have to try and have 2 or 3 extras on your bench.
I think you're going to have pretty much your whole bench playing every week, to be honest.
You almost don't need enough because you're going to have... Most likely, there's a good chance you're going to have somebody that's in the buy team anyway. If you're thinking that potential loop. Yeah, so like you almost don't need enough until until pretty much after Origin 3.
Yeah. And
then you think, all right, these are the teams I'm going to attack. And that 1 week that if Team A's got the bye, well, I'm going to have to just move around that.
Yeah.
But
you are going to want to have still probably 2 or 3 players at the bottom dollar price just to sort of balance out your cap and the way that you can, so you can fit a few of those Supercoach gods into your side. But you're going to want them playing. So come that week before, Team List Tuesday before the first week of the year, I think there's going to be a lot of people scrambling trying to find that bottom dollar player.
It's probably the most important year for round 1. I think you have to get your team a long way down the path you want it on. You can't really swerve too far out of the way without either burning trades or risking that sort of thing. I haven't seen any update yet on rules, whether we keep the boost. So last year we had the extra boost for COVID, and we had a couple of, you could use, 5 in a round if you had to.
Yeah.
I can't see the boost not being
I think they keep it the same.
Because the COVID rule's still in.
Is it?
As far as I know, the COVID rule's still there. If you test positive game day with symptoms...
You're out.
You're out.
Okay.
So I can see that
obviously
part.
We saw someone play a test match with COVID, so...
Yeah.
I imagine it's on the road to changing, but... Yeah, I can understand it.
You can sort of keep blokes
what
separate
happened?
a little bit in cricket.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what happened? You know what happened, though?
League.
The minute that we're now getting down this path where the minute someone important in an important game tests positive, there'll be legal challenges, and if they're feeling up to it...
And that's it. If they're feeling no symptoms...
They'll be saying, well, hang on, there'll be a challenge for it. So, but that's by the by. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Look, a couple of... you guys got any quick talking points? We're going to go position by position and maybe talk about maybe some must-haves or some goals we want to get to. Hopefully some PODs. We do love our pods. And hopefully some cheapies it is tricky. We're doing this very early in the year. In some cases, we obviously don't know 17s. We definitely don't. Some teams don't know top 30s. So there's a little bit of change. But I think we're a long way down knowing where we're going to be.
I've just got the top 20, the highest priced players. I might just list them off with their averages and maybe just let us know if you're interested, whether you're going to leave it for the time being or what your thoughts basically on the players. So
okay, well, do you want to start there?
Yeah, we'll go with the top price player this year will be Ryan Pappenhausen at $830,000. Last year he averaged 90.3 points a game, but did only play the 12 games, obviously with his long-term injury, and he got 1,084 points in those 12 games. But obviously coming off the shattered knee in a million different places.
I'd like to see him back first, I think. I think he'll drop price
sounds
first.
like he won't be back round one anyway.
No,
he's just gone over to the US, hasn't he?
Yeah.
To try and work with the Trails, mate.
He's at his best. So if he does come back and he drops a price, I think there's a point where you do pick him up.
How much was he, sorry?
830.
He's dropping to 6.
Yeah,
I think at least 7,
Yeah, he's dropping a fair bit. Wouldn't surprise me if Bellamy sort of relaxes him back into it as well. Potential bench for a game or two, and his price will just drop.
If he's only playing 20 minutes, half an hour for those first couple of games, his price will dramatically drop.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking.
Keep going. Well, because we'll touch on team specifics after this.
Nico Hines at halfback, 788,300. Last year averaged 85.8. Played 23 out of the 24 games. Goal kicker.
I think he's one of two. He's one of two halfbacks you're looking at, either him or Cleary. He's Origin immune at this stage.
At the moment,
obviously we all thought he should have been to Origin 14, but at this stage he's going to get through Origin period. A lot can change, obviously. As you said, goal kicker, point scorer. He's going to be the figurehead of everything Sharks do. So if his price may drop slightly from that, but if you're happy to, if you're picking and sticking, it's a yes for me.
I want him, but he's not my first choice 7. He's that, if I can afford him, it's just one less trade later on. But it depends on how the rest of the team works. He's definitely not that first choice 7. Especially with Cleary being cheaper.
Cleary was my first choice, but the round 4 buy sort of worries me a little bit there, and I'm not sure how you're going to need a bit of money to have a halfback that's going to be playing at some point.
And that's it.
Unless you go with someone like O'Sullivan later down, as your backup for that game, we'll
get to him. He's very expensive.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Latrell, fullback, 776,500. Last year he ended up with an average of 84.5.
He's actually those prices aren't actually up to date. Just quickly, Pappenhausen's 950 with the salary cap increase.
Oh shit! Yeah, okay.
Latrell's 889.
This was a Telegraph.
No, this is before the update. So not a knock on you. I've just realised, just looking now. 889 Latrell. Keep going.
I'll bring it up and I'll get it right as we go, so you don't have to.
But in terms of Latrell,
anyway, for Latrell, I'm not touching to start with.
So anyway, we had Pappy was 950. You said Nico.
Nico is 902.
Latrell's 889.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And at that price with their start, not touching him.
So you had a look at the draw. They got a pretty rough start, do they?
Compared to other players I'm looking at in that position, they do.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair call.
Agree. Let's see him get.
Yeah, he's one I probably want to look at a bit further down the track. Maybe a month in or 6 weeks in or something like that.
And he's proven that previously. He's kind of one of those players that he'll go on that run. And if he goes on that run, you can always pick him up.
Yep.
If he goes on that run. But at that price, if Latrell just has one of those games where he's not too keen, he's another one of those guys that'll just drop 150. And then you look at hopefully, trying to bring him in at that good reduced price.
Okay, he averaged 85 last year.
What did I say? 84.5.
Oh, sorry, 84.5. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So now we go down to Munster. Cameron Munster's 4th on the list. He's currently at $848,300. Averaged 80.6 last year. Played 21 games, which I thought he missed a couple more, but obviously not.
No, obviously not. No. Not to start with.
It's pretty pricey, isn't it? 850.
Yeah, that's all I'll say for now.
If you do want to go out of your way, I'm not going to talk you out of picking and sticking and holding him for the entire season.
Realistically, you've got to pick. You're only starting the season with 3 or 4 of these blokes.
Yeah.
And you got to either you're looking for value for money, or if you love Cam Munster, I'm not going to say no but I also have a concern about Melbourne.
Sure.
And this is the thing about which we may as well talk about it. Now I'll hold it. Fuck it. Kick on.
Cleary at halfback at 734. Oh, sorry. No, that's on my list.
841.
841. Averaged 79.9 last year, and he played. What did he play? He only played 14 games. That's right. A couple of suspensions and an injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can't see him playing that little. And
you think he'll play some more games?
I think he'll be the top point scorer.
Okay.
I think he plays more. I think if you want to go with him, I would never say no to it. I think you'd want a good backup 7 because he'll be rested in the back of Origin. He'll be rested. Realistically, if
maybe
they're on
coming
top
into
of the
finals,
comp, he won't be there. He might not be for round 25 when you want your best player. That said, he's in my team right now. So,
yep.
What do you say?
As I said, I was looking at him. Him and Nico Hines were probably obviously the first 2 picks in that position. I'll probably go with Nico just for, I think, Origin. You know, you're not going to have him missing through Origin. I think Sharks will probably go close to scoring as much points as Penrith during the year as well. They got pretty close last year as well, and so. But the difference in price, it's not 60K is probably. You definitely could go with Cleary, and I think most probably will. But
any go, Dana?
I want him in again. He'll be just due to the price with him and Nico. If it was the other way around, or if potentially Nico was like 100K difference, I think it's more of the thing. Everyone's going to have him. So it's that worry if I don't have Cleary.
If he goes and gets a couple of hundreds to start.
If he comes out and just
which
blows
is very much,
the Broncos.
That was the story of 2021, wasn't it? Where if you didn't have him, if you didn't have Cody, if you didn't have Pappy at the time, you'd just be Tommy at the time, I should say, Tommy Turbo. You're just blown out of the water. Didn't matter what the rest of your team did. You were chasing 200 from the start.
And that's what I mean. And I personally think he top scores. So I want him in for that reason alone. He's in and it's done. Yeah.
Keep going, man.
Yep. Tedesco is the next on the list, 6th on our list. He is currently 836,300. Average 79.5. I'm pretty sure he's averaged 80 pretty much every year that he's played in Supercoach. He's a proven Supercoach god. Played 23 games last year. I can't see any reason why he's not the starting fullback for probably 50% of teams in the Supercoach.
It's almost rinse and repeat, but he'll be the second highest scorer. He'll be the one behind Cleary.
He will be, yep.
Even though the Roosters start slow, generally, he never stops. It doesn't matter how the Roosters are going.
Even if they're going, he'll have 280 run meters.
He probably goes better when the Roosters are playing poorly, to be honest.
Because he hogs the ball more.
Yeah.
Isaiah Papali'i currently sitting at... Where is he? He's further down the list than I thought. No, he's at the top. 831,700. Averaged 79 points last year and played every game.
He is the one that I want to talk about the Tigers, and we'll get to it. But the obvious answer is yes. The question mark is, is he a different player in a different club under a different coach? We don't know yet. So is he the best Supercoach back row in the game right now? Yeah. Is that too high? It's a little bit it's higher than I'd like to think. Would I look elsewhere to start? I would probably have more faith in the Angus Crichtons and Cam Murrays of the world just to start the comp, but just my hunch. What do you think?
I'm the same. The fact he's lost his duel,
and that's a big thing. Yeah.
And it was that POD last year. Sean Lane. Now that he's gone, they're going to go to Lane even more. You've got Cameron Murray. As you said, Angus Crichton, I think there's better options at a cheaper price to start the year. Tigers are bought in a lot. Might take a few weeks to gel. And that duel.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about how they... he obviously needs to get that combination going with his half that'll be playing on his side. He'll be somebody I'll be looking at later, but I wouldn't be surprised if he drops 100K in the first month or two.
I still see him being a top 5. He's top, and I can't tell anyone to say I can't talk anyone off him.
Yeah,
if you want him, go for it. But I think there are better options.
Well, Tino's, 130K cheaper. I know he averaged...
And Jewel still.
And Jewel.
Yeah.
He did average 12 points less, but
Right.
if you still got a Jewel that you can switch between front row and second row, that makes a big difference.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Next.
Harry Grant, hooker. Currently at 816,500, averaged 77.6 and played 20 games.
Best hooker in the game.
Think so.
Clearly. We'll play a lot, probably play most games 80 minutes now with when he's there with Cheese gone.
Yeah.
He's another one that do you risk not starting with him? Because
he's got, I think you've just got, if you're going to spend the money, and I know guys that do and do well, Beaver and other blokes just decide they're the 5 best players, I want them in my team and worry about the rest later. If that's how you're going to play it, cool. He's going to have his usual try assists. He's going to make 45 tackles.
He's going to score tries.
He's going to score tries.
Yeah.
I need to save money somewhere, so I'm looking elsewhere early on.
And that's what I'm thinking as well. There's a couple. Hooker's just one of those positions. If someone cheap comes along, as long as they can make their tackles,
and
they can make 200K
Hookers are very good
quickly.
at making exactly right.
Yeah, so that's just, and yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about other hookers later, but it's that position where, as long as it almost feels like every year someone pops up, everyone jumps on them to get that price jump.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brayley or someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I think he might be a few weeks in. He may drop a little bit of cash to start the year, just getting used to playing 80 minutes again because he wasn't playing. He hasn't been playing 80 minutes at hooker for a while. But once he hits that, you'll notice. You'll know when he starts going. Everyone will be jumping.
I've got zero concerns about this bloke. Looks like Mark Wolf, no hair. I've got zero concerns about him playing 80 minutes.
ADHD Daggy.
That's not Mark Wolf.
Joey Manu at 9, centre wing. Currently going to cost you 801,500. Average 75 last year.
I love Joey.
76.
Loses his jaw. I would love to, if he had another jaw, whether it was 5'8" or whether it's fullback, he'd be close to first picked. I think there's 2 centres in the game. I will definitely be buying him and Val Holmes. I'll leave it at that.
You can only afford one good
CT
dub to start with, and he's not it at that price.
Okay.
Yeah, Val who kicks with 80K cheaper.
And
probably.
I think Val should be in. If you're
Garrick who kicks as well was 60K cheaper.
Just with this with the Cowboy start, I think if you're spending money on a CT dub, I think Val is the one. And I think by the time the season starts, the numbers will show, and there he'll be.
We might just jump off at the top 10 here, but we've got Damien Cook at hooker, who is currently 700, averaged 75.2, and played 20 games last year.
Last year was his best season in a while.
It was.
Too high. I'm looking elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the same. Yeah, he went on that run.
The back end of the year. Yeah.
That's it. So I don't know what it was that.
Well, Souths came good.
And
that's
I guess
stats are inflated
that's
too.
it. It was.
Just had 10 rounds where he was doing not much, and then he was doing 140s every week. So.
Exactly. So.
I can't have him to start the season.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And they do have a tough
As
run.
you mentioned, probably one of his best seasons in a while, and I'm not sure if he pulls the same out again this year, to be honest. I've had a few concerns about his running game for a couple of years now, and I don't think that's going to get any better.
Well, it's
and now he's
12
a
months
year older.
So.
Do we see more and more of him playing an hour instead of
20 minutes?
Do we see more of what's his name? The backup. I was going to call him Hatzagogblu, but that's Spinner from
I think that South have the hardest start to the year. Where they go Sharks, Penrith, Roosters, Manly, Storm.
Yeah, no, that's
I think that is the hardest first 5 that any team has.
All right, let's look at some just a couple of teams that are full of these sort of players. Very quickly, so the Storm. Mm-hmm. 3 of the players we mentioned are their spine. They've lost their forward pack.
They have.
Their outside backs are we've seen when they're exposed, they're not the best. And they've lost a couple of them. Are there concerns about finding that Melbourne Storm spine? Will they be overbought early by players that just go, I'm going to get Munster and Pappy and da-da-da, and you're losing money? Or do you avoid them? Do you just not worry about that because they're Storm and they'll be fine? What do you think?
I don't think the ceiling's as high to start with.
Yeah.
I still see Grant Hughes, who was a good pod, Munster, I still see him scoring points because that's where the points are going to come from with the Storm. Those three are going to either score the tries or set the tries up.
Yep.
But instead of winning games 30-12, do they only score 3 tries instead of the 5? You know, and then in that situation, you've got to then split those try assists up. Well, you're not going to be, instead of averaging 2 a game, you're averaging 1. Well, that's a massive drop-off in points. I still see them scoring, but again, they're all going to drop price, which is why I don't think I'll be starting with any of the Storm big guns.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I do think there's some value there in and around that forward pack, though.
Definitely.
Depending on who comes in and who's going to start at the beginning of the year. The likes of Horworth, who I've heard so many good things about, is about 200k. If he gets a starting second row position at 200k, you're laughing. Like,
exactly. And that's it.
And he's a dual centre as well. So
Nice.
We need one of them.
And King loses his duel, but was a solid.
Welsh coming back would be a big one. I don't know. I'd assume he would have dropped in price being out injured for the entire year.
I can't touch anyone that's coming back from an ACL.
Yeah,
I think it's only been 1 or 2
Too
players.
many scars, mate.
Don't even go there. Don't even go there.
The Dolphins. So they're a whole new team.
Yep.
There are some potential blokes in there that are going to start cheap. Someone like I've heard raps on this. The Ryan Jackson. He was supposedly a future Origin player. He's a base player. If he gets in there, might be someone a front row. He's a big 6'4" front row, whatever he is. Something like that. Look, Tessie New, the Hammer now, they're back. Maybe they different. So anything, are you worried about Dolphins? You treat them as any other, you just treat them player by player, or you're looking for someone like a Ray Stone. Like, so
Another ACL.
True. But he was on the road to being something last year.
He was.
He's someone I think I'll be picking up, to be honest.
To be fair, I probably will too, because he's one of those guys that can just make 40 tackles a game.
Yeah.
Which means his money, it'll be a slow cow, but it's still a cow.
Yeah.
You don't have to play him.
Good price. He's a dual hooker as well.
Exactly.
Hooker, second rower, another one dual that you can move around in your team. 250k. There's a lot of players in and around that 250k spot up at the Dolphins.
He's one of those ones, though, if he's on the bench, you can't, because he's a trap.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. If he gets a starting role...
I think he wouldn't. I think he might even start at lock, to be honest. But
I was trying to find a post. They were talking about who actually locked that down the other day, and I just can't find it right now. But, yeah, he's one of those players, as you said, there's a few of them up there that if they get that tick that they're starting...
Fama Suali, I think he went from Parramatta to somewhere and now he's ended up there. Massive unit of a bloke. Yeah. If they can get him on to play 50, 60 minutes, he's going to make you money as well. I think Kenny Bromwich will go fantastic.
Kenny's always been a nice pod. He's always averaged.
He wasn't slowing 50s. down at the Storm. You know, he is getting a bit older, but
great
crash over for a try here and there.
Great draft player.
Yeah. And I think Kafusi would be as well.
Kafusi probably be, I can see them both going quite well
had a good hooker
up there.
Jeremy Marshall King would be good, but if they had he might be good.
So here we go. Wayne Bennett's all but confirmed his forward pack. Nichols and J-Brom, front row, JMK at 9, Kenny Bromwich and Kafusi on the edge, Tom Gilbert at 13.
Oh, Gilbert at 13.
So he's probably someone that a few people jump on.
Gilbert would be
and
that's what I mean. So I can't see Ray Stone. If he does start, I
probably won't be starting with young Katoa, who's gone up there from the Panthers, but I can imagine him pushing in his way in there at some point.
Yeah.
Like, how long's Milford got left in him? How long's O'Sullivan going to,
massive rups on that Katoa, him being something. The Tigers.
Really good 5'8".
The Tigers. So they've gone and bought. They now have this pack that's full of five of the top 10 Supercoach forwards. Papi, they get Twile back. Clemmer, who was the best or second best front row.
Right up there in the front row.
Appy, who was second best hooker. Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
How good. But can you trust them straight away? Is there individual thoughts?
I don't think there's anyone there that you can't trust, to be honest.
So you're just going to say they're fine.
Off and Gowie there as well.
And Joff was
killing it last year in Supercoach. You got that young Pole who looks like he's going to be a superstar in the making. If he can get 40 minutes a game, he's probably worth looking at. He's at 400.
So I'd probably more because we want to I'll get to play by play now. But from the point of view, do you just treat him as, it's Isaiah Papley. He's going to do
I'd be a
his
bit
job
worried
no matter
about
what.
Bateman coming back. I think he may take a little while to get up and running, back to NRL speed,
I wouldn't be
considering he's
surprised
been
if he,
playing in the Super League for a
I'd
while.
be surprised he starts off the bench, really, if he's only arriving next week. But
I can't see myself having a starting Tigers forward
at all.
to start the season.
Okay.
I finished. I had Papali'i in Clemmer to finish last year.
Yep.
So it's not that I don't like them.
No, but this is my point. So you're just going to say, you know what,
You
they're the
wanna have a
Tigers,
watch.
let's wait and see.
Well,
You're allowed to say it.
It is the Tigers.
No.
We
So
wanna
there
wait
is a
and see.
Tigers player that Tigers start the season
They've
quite
got
comfortably.
They've got a great start.
They've got a great start,
Yeah.
but the forwards aren't where I'm looking.
We'll get to those cheeky surprises later then, Barn. And Dad, look, I think just player by player. I agree with you. I wouldn't touch Bateman yet. I think he's not the one. I think if you're a Papley fan, I think you'll lose money for a make it.
Sorry, I lie. Appy is a forward.
Appy's a forward. So if you're looking at
He's all good, yes.
Against those first few sides,
he could have a big impact.
he could have a huge impact with those big forwards running off him.
And we'll talk about the younger blokes later.
Yeah.
But I was more just saying from the superstars.
Yeah. Well, Appy
yeah.
is a superstar.
Yeah, that's right.
Appy
There's
is a superstar.
Appy.
You're happy to look at Appy.
I'm happy to look at Appy
Yeah.
because I think he goes there and takes control of that side. And with their starting draw, I don't mind him, but it's the outside backs and your potential fullback, which I think could be some money makers.
Any ad, Barn?
I think you pretty much hit it on the head. Interested to see if Blore ever hits the field again. Obviously,
Yeah,
he showed
well,
so
they're the
much
two
promise,
on a-
but the bloke's
I think Dana
constantly
might be
been
thinking
injured.
the same way. Yeah.
He's, there's a lot there about that young fella. He looked really good with the time he was on the field, but they just can't get him on the field.
Are there any?
interested to see him come back.
Are there any other teams you want to sort of touch on that are head scratchers, or should we just dive into position by position?
Well, yeah, not really. The Sharks and Cowboys are both going to be interesting to see whether they stay at that kind of level that they were at last year, or because I'm expecting they probably both will drop off at some point during the year.
I've
But
sort of got the same
then
feel.
by the back end of the year, they
Add
may be
Eels to
back in
that.
at the top of where
Eels
they
are
were.
gonna drop.
so-
The Eels I got big, I don't think
Without
I can-
Reid,
I don't think I can touch your Guthos, and like last year, Gutho's always a money maker the first 15 rounds, and I just don't feel it this year.
Gutho is one of those ones you just got to get him at the right time. And if you time it right, he'll average 120.
Yeah,
But if you don't get off that right week, that next score is a 20.
It's a 20.
Oh, and you've got the Knights, obviously.
Yeah.
Knights are a big one. How the way their football comes together now with the changes that they've
It
made to
basically
their
said
squad.
Ponga's at 6. Hastings going to have touching the ball 17, well, 5 times a set.
We chatted about this
You
the
know,
other day. I didn't mind Ponga as a fullback
As a
option.
fullback, yeah.
As a fullback option, even if
well,
to
if he's
start
playing
the
6, he'll be
season.
dual by round 4.
That's what I mean. So it's not the worst.
And I sort of agree. I think Hastings will be the best thing that happens to Ponga.
Potentially.
If Ponga's ever going to be someone. But do I want to touch? Do I still like? Then you sit back and go, actually, they're still the Knights. So what does it actually mean?
I think he's more effective at fullback. I don't understand switching him to 6. I know he wants to play there and whatever, but how long was he there for? 6 weeks last year, and they fucked him off pretty quick because he was he was very average when he played.
If you're going to risk it, though, it's that first few
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
Warriors, Tigers, Dolphins.
But all of a sudden, well, those first week, he's got to tackle Tohu 15 times, and then the next week he's got to tackle Papi and Blore 15 times. Going, you know what? I liked it back there.
Like Brayley and Hastings will give him a lot of help, but I can't see him working at 6. I could be completely wrong, but I'm definitely worried about him playing at 6.
Agree. It's a funny feel.
If it wasn't for those soft games at the start, you wouldn't be risking it.
Yeah,
it's the fact.
It's just that you don't ever really see him step and take on the line and play that angle back in at the line. He's always floating around the back looking for people to pick up on the back, which you can do at 6 as well, but I just think he's far more effective at fullback.
Let's kick up. Let's go front to back. So we'll start with the hookers. As I said, I'll throw out a few notes I've got, and you can chime in, but I won't steal all the thunder. I'll let you guys go first on a couple of positions as well, as Barney looks particularly unimpressed from the fact we've already gone an hour. That's fine.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Let's start at hooker, yeah?
Let's start the hookers, eh?
Right, yeah.
So, is the obvious starting point the Cheese? New club, potentially 80 minutes straight away, 478K inflated, which is half the price of some we've talked about. And he's going to be putting Angus Crichton and the Baker boys through holes, and no Connor Watson now. Does he just stand out like a sore thumb here to someone you want to be with, Barn?
At least for the first 6 or 8 weeks, he's definitely going to make money. If he is playing 80 minutes, that's the question, though. Does he end up playing 80 minutes, or is he still going to be playing? He's going to get more minutes than what he was at Melbourne, you would imagine. He's only getting probably 40 or 50 minutes most weeks. So I can imagine he's going to be playing at least 60, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's sort of where it stops. You know what I mean? So he's been priced at an average of 45, so I imagine he's definitely going to make money. He should be up and around about the 60 by the, when he's up and going. But I'll probably have him as my second hooker, to be honest, if I can try to squeeze some money.
You're going to try and go 2 hookers early?
Yeah.
Yep.
Play the dual hooker at the start of the year because, if you can get 2 of them averaging 60.
He's lost and he's not dual anymore.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so which is it's a bit of a downside. But, I don't think I'll have him as my number 1 hooker, but I'll be trying to squeeze him in as my second, I think.
So this is where the buy hits so early because they've got that nice, comfy start, the Dolphins. Then it's, sorry, let me just get it back up. Dolphins, Warriors, rounds 1 and 2. Round 3, the Rabbitohs, where it gets a little bit tougher. Then it's the bye into the Eels.
I have a gut feel, and this is completely me making up because I'm a dickhead. I have a gut feel Roosters will blow Souths off the park in that game. I can see them just.
They have a habit of.
Well,
away. That's it. Souths have that.
I don't know why.
Like
it's just 6 weeks out. I just just think they're going to. I don't know why.
That's where it's one of those things where it's like, all right.
What's your tip by 40 when we get to when we get to it?
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, they could lose by 40. He's going into that game with a negative break even. You would think with those first 2. Yeah. So that and that really is what.
I think you probably find around sort of rounds 8 and 9, he'll probably hit his mark, and then it's whether that'll be when you know how good he's actually going.
I don't think he's a season-long keeper.
I don't think so either, but I think he makes 100K.
But is 100K enough?
If I'm only buying someone to make 100K,
you want 200.
Are there people here, which we'll get to?
And that's what I mean. So round 4, bye. Round 5, the Eels. Round 6, the Storm. Round 7, the Sharks. All of a sudden, it goes from, this is amazing, to... Holy crap.
Shit.
Yeah, shit. And this is where that buy comes into it.
But then you can drag him through Origin if he's going good. He gets you through Origin.
You don't want to hold him for 8 weeks, but for the sake of a game.
Maybe 3 games. If you're looking at Appy, Cook,
that's
potentially Robson.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But
it's just 100%. But, sorry.
And, the other thing is, how are the Roosters going to play him? Is he going to be... He's not a ball-running 9. So...
he can be.
His biggest...
I think you haven't seen him do it for a while because he's been in a different role.
Which means it won't happen in those easy games at the start.
Yeah, he will.
His biggest...
Watch him fucking go nuts.
I don't see him playing 80.
No, I don't think he'll be playing the 80.
And that's it. There's a whole bunch of talk on social media that everyone's just going to have him as the C in round 1 because they're versus the Dolphins.
Maybe by the end of the year.
It's like, if Tedesco's not the C round 1, I don't know. You may as well give the game up, I think. Watch that come back to bite me on the arse. But Dolphins round 1, if Tedesco's not your captain. But, yeah, I don't... What are we valuing a trade with the buy?
I don't think the Dolphins are going to be as bad as everyone thinks
Actually,
they are.
I'm not saying to make the editing, but I'm pretty bullish they're going to do all right, the
I
Dolphins.
think they might have a few issues scoring points, but
they're not.
I think their defence will be.
Mate, you've got they're older, but nearly an Origin forward pack, and they're going to be fine. The Dolphins.
I think the Roosters have got them at the right time, though. You want that first. Do you know what I mean?
But
to start the season,
they're not going to win the Spooner out of that.
I don't think so.
Possibly so.
I don't think so.
Look, there's talk of anything else?
Well, Mitch Kenny at 300. If he gets a starting spot at Penrith.
Well, what about a pair of them?
He's been priced at an average of 29.5. So you think he at least gets 50 if he's playing for 60 minutes at hooker. So there's the bloke who's probably going to make 200K in the first 6 weeks. Or Sonny Luke. I'm not.
Well, the extension is Sonny Luke's 234.
Obviously, whoever gets the starting spot is still probably one that you're going to be looking at as your second.
How much does that Penrith forward pack change in that? Could you see both play 60 minutes? Because Mitch Kenny played a lot in that back row.
Go back into the back row.
And Sonny Luke's fast, explosive.
Play 40 minutes.
I think by the end of the year, Sonny's the go-to. But they might just do the whole season.
You think Kenny just plays 20 minutes and then goes into the back row, maybe?
At least to start with.
Sonny Luke comes
by
on
the end
for
of
an
the
hour.
year. Well, Sonny Luke's going to be my second pick hooker. He's 230K. he's making money. He'll be 440.
You would think so.
By round 6 or 7.
You would hope so.
Because he's making. It wasn't too hard to tell in that team how much tackle defensively he was, but he's going to have a aggressive upside, and at hooker you can't not make tackles, so he's going to have something to offer there.
I think that'll be a big one in the trials. The wait and see in the trials to see. Hopefully, we get some type of insight on how Penrith plan on using their nines.
But Mitch, Kenny, I agree. So you thinking you're looking at Kenny directly, or
if he starts? Yeah. Absolutely. Anyone averaged at 30 and who's pretty much going to double their minutes coming into the next year, you have to be looking at. Big thing with the obviously the guys that are priced in below sort of 300k or around 300 is their game time. Like if they're moved from a bench player that was getting 20 minutes, half an hour, and now moved into a starting position, they're gold, really.
Yeah.
It's probably someone you're going to flick after 6 weeks or 8 weeks or so, but they're going to make these. I'd be surprised if he doesn't make 150k if he's starting for Penrith.
There's some talk I was reading today now with the issues at the Dragons. Jaden Sullivan's very much in the radar to start at 5'8". I know we're not necessarily that positive on the Dragons, but he's 320k and dual position. Is he a second choice hooker option?
There's a whole heap of them.
I feel like we've said
realistically,
this before, but
there is a lot, and it's going to come down to who you end up picking as your number one. And as we were chatting, Cheese could potentially just be our number 2.
Yeah, and probably a great number 2.
He's a great number 2. He's going to make money, and I don't think I'm going to have him all year.
So you're very bullish on your first choice hooker. Do you want to tell us about it?
I would like Appy. If everything goes to plan, and might do base my side massively on all the cheapies that are available and work around that, I just think Appy will be good enough to at least start the year and see where that progresses. It's one of those ones where I can just put him in and I'm confident. Like I don't have the Tigers as a top 8 side. I'm just confident in what Appy can do for his price compared to the few guys that were above him. There's 150k between him and Harry Grant. Yeah. I think early on he covers that. And whether he turns into an upgrade to Harry at the right time or Damien Cook, depending on what happens, that's my plan now. A lot can change between now and the start of the season, but that is the plan at the moment.
Sounds pretty good to me. I'm looking sort of maybe around the Brayley boys to start with. Just the fact that, that they're both going to what you get is what you get week in and week out from them. They very rarely score low. They generally average in and around the 60s. And I think there's a bit of upside there for Jaden if he gets time on the field. Obviously, he has another bloke who spent pretty much 3 years on the sidelines. Only played 8 games last year, but still averaged almost 60 in those 8 games. If he can get the first month under his belt, I think he'll improve. I think he'll improve out of sight. You saw it at the Sharks before his injuries kicked in. He was a fantastic hooker. He was close to probably second or third hooker in the comp.
Yeah.
And, if you can get game time on the field.
Very nice, as good a service as some of the Reeds of the world.
Which you don't really get a lot of Supercoach points for. But
no, that's true. That's true.
He will make 40 tackles and, he'll put a few blokes in holes. So.
The other one that popped out of nowhere last year was Reece Robson. What do we think with the start? They've got Raiders, Broncos, Warriors, Titans, Bulldogs, Dolphins, Warriors again, Knights.
To look at.
In terms of the easiest start, I think the Cowboys do have the easiest.
My gut was
first 8 rounds
when I first looked at this, but that's very enticing.
I think the Knights have got a pretty good first 5 or 6 rounds as well.
Yeah. But he's as an attacking type. Yeah.
His third ranked hooker last year.
That's it.
670, 65 average, 64 and a half.
There's he's only he's 12k more than Appy.
That's a very cozy run in a team. But what he's got in Appy is what you get.
Yes.
He's not in unfamiliar
and that's
territory.
So he's I don't know. He's another one of those ones that if you started with more money than what you've got, I'd be trying to squeeze him in.
Yeah.
And almost not just touch the cheese, but I just don't think I can afford to go him and Appy.
No. Yeah, that's.
I'd be too weak elsewhere.
Yeah, you don't want to be spending $1 million at hooker, I don't think.
And that's it. Murray, don't get me wrong. I think they both finish top 3-4 hookers. So it's not like I'm buying 2 duds, but hooker's just one of those positions. Their ceiling's not as great as some of the other.
Up to $1 million, but you wouldn't want to be going over the.
And that's what I mean. And you're missing out on that player that would then be making the 100 to 200K later down the track.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the couple of notes I had. Ray Stone, we touched on dual position. He's going to be 240. If he gets 60 minutes a week, he's making money on that. Potentially a great second choice there. And look, and the only other one is probably more for 2024, but I'm really keen to see Rua Nagatukara come back for the Tigers. Little Cheese Junior. He was super impressive in the trials last year. Did an ACL, I think. And missed last year, which is the story of 15 Tigers players. Yeah. But if he gets a bench spot sort of mid-year when Appy's out, might be a cheeky cash cow for 6 weeks through the middle of the period there. Anything else you want to touch on in the hooker role?
Oh, the only other one, Hodgson should make money, you would imagine. 380K coming back for Parramatta. Another one that you said, ACL.
Not touching. He's played, 3 games in 3 years, hasn't he?
Something like that. Yeah.
Not touching. So. Eels shouldn't have touched him. I'm not bringing him into the Supercoach side.
Anything else for you, Dan?
Not for hooker, mate.
Tanner Boyd is apparently going to be the starting 7 for the Titans. Right. Was confirmed by Holbrook today. He's a dual position hooker halfback, and he's 380K. So, look, he's in that. He's a little bit in that. Around that price, he's probably, if he's 100K cheaper, you'd look at him in the same vein.
He's playing on Fafita's side, so his points will reflect on what
how he goes.
Exactly. One game could be 7 because Fief doesn't want to show up, and the next game he'll get 80 because their try assist that he literally just caught pass, and Fafita just decided, I want to play ball today.
Was good in his time on the field last year, I thought. So definitely someone worth looking at under 400K. You probably make you 100, but maybe not much more than that.
And it's sort of the point we had, like, is making 100 enough as a hooker when you want to?
I think it's 150, 200 now, really.
Yeah.
For a trade. By the time you trade them out, and you want to be making close to 200K to make it worthwhile, I think. It depends on how many trades we're going to end up with too, to be honest.
Yeah, true. The front row. All right, here it is. Where do you want? I'll let you drive the bus here, Barn. Where's your starting points and any talking
Tino's
points?
Probably my starting front rower, to be honest. 700K, average 67. He's not going to do any worse, I wouldn't imagine, this year. Bloke's an absolute gun. He's constantly involved in everything, unlike one of his mates that plays for the same team. But just puts in work every week, tackles his ass off. And I expect him to probably even be more involved in scoring some points this year than what he was last season. So I think they should probably use him a bit more like they use Fafita in try-scoring situations. But, yeah, he's probably the first one, and a duel as well. And then the next one I'm probably looking at is another duel in Tohu Harris. Another bloke that does exactly the same thing, averages 60s and above. Only played 15 games last year. I think he'll probably be better from the back end of last year when he seemed to be peaking right at the end of the season, and get him fully fit and up and going at the start of this year. Probably neither of these two are going to be making money for me during the year, but they're people that I'll be hopefully holding for the entire season, and then using my bench as the blokes that are going to make the money.
Yeah, part of Supercoach is having faith in some of these blokes, and you just know Tohu's not going to ever let you down. It stood out like a beacon for me, the duel on Tohu. I'll be looking at him early. And if you remember when he came back, they started him off the bench. They played him limited minutes for a bit, and I think it was for 2 weeks, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're back. You may as well play all 80." But he will deliver again. What is he now? 33. So the end is coming, but I've got ultra faith in him. I thought he was the first pick for me. I was looking at Totola off a hot year, but the concern is that bit of the south. Now you've mentioned the South Straw and the South Start. His points will probably reflect how well Souths go, and that maybe now is enough to turn me off early. But he did some good things throughout last year. Dana, any caught your eye before I mention the rest of these?
Those top 10, who of those in the props, who falls out?
Of the top 10?
Yep.
DeBellin. Depends how much Fanua Blake gets on. It's more who pushes their way in.
That's what I mean. Who? Because they're all very steady players, and this is the point that I'm getting to.
Well, I don't think Cotter has the same year as he did last year.
No, he was the one that I thought.
DeBellin, as you mentioned,
Forwards
This is just for those.
Fisher
looking at
Harris
the
has
strength.
never been
So
a
the top
huge
10
Supercoach guy. But
top 10 is Tino, Tapane, Clemmer, Haas, Offengawe, Harris, Cotter, Papaihi, DeBellin, Fisher Harris, Fanua Blake is 11th.
So my point to that is I don't normally go big to start the season because I've got a feeling all those guys are going to be there and I'm going to work my money towards them. Front row is one of those positions that you've just got to get it right.
Just pick one up at some point.
Like a Tom Gilbert, who is around that 490 mark as a dual. He's one of those guys that if he's locked in as a 13, can see him making the 150 and working towards one of those better players.
But even going all the way down to your 40s here, they're still averaging 40 points. Like your top, there's not too many wrong answers, especially if you're banking that.
And that's sort of what I go off. I try and it's one of the places I try and save my money because those top, as you said, Tino, Tapane, Clemmer, I can see them, Tohu Harris, I can see all those guys being right up there at the start of the mid-season, end of season again. It's those guys that you're working towards, and the front row is one of those ones that's not going to blow you out of the water. They're not going to score the 130s, 140s if you're not on them. They're gonna. Your guy might get
you get 58 and you go, okay, cool, he's done his job.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, these guys get. You know, if they score a try, they might hit a ton that way. If they don't score a try, they're not hitting a ton. They're not gonna. If you don't have them.
Well, I'm just trying to think. I think which front rowers have tonned up last year. I think Tino did once. I think Mo did 2 years ago.
I had Tapane. Tapane. Sorry. Yeah, and I had him a couple of times. Payne Haas, I don't know if you've done it last year. He's one that can.
Haas is one I actually don't want to touch yet because there's a lot of shit going on there.
Definitely.
And I think Brisbane are a club that leave me nervous. Like they're a head case. They clearly are. But, whatever everyone said.
Yeah,
like
props one of those positions. You can, as you said, you can spend 250,000 less, and it only costs you 15 points.
Yeah. So I mentioned Ryan Jackson as a spruik. If he gets in that 17, or is thereabouts maybe someone at base. Just because I know I've heard the spruik. Is there anything else, Barney, before I mention a couple of those?
Well, Oregon Kaufusi at 380 coming from Parramatta, I think he'll get a lot more game time than what he was getting at Parramatta.
And these are the type of guys. Well. That's what I mean. These are the type of guys that I'm thinking that they're still gonna score, and if they're scoring.
He's averaged at 36, and I think he was only getting 25, 30 minutes at Parramatta.
Exactly.
I can see him getting 50 minutes at the Sharks. So,
he feels like a Sharks player, doesn't he?
The type of guys that I'm thinking that there's just money to be made.
Royce Hunt was tremendous in the World Cup, another Sharks player, but he improved out of sight at the back end of last year. It was around 400K. I think he can do some good things. Interested about how much game time Polly's going to get now that the Tigers have boosted up their stocks, but he looked like, as I mentioned earlier, looked like a really good kid coming through.
Seems he's going to be playing footy.
Yeah, but I think he'll be playing. I don't know if he plays enough minutes to make money. That's the only issue. I think he may only be playing half an hour, which...
Mark Nichols going up to the Dolphins. He's 370K, average of 35. That increases if you're starting every week.
You would think so.
And this is what I mean. These are those guys that it's not even a slow cow. These are those. If you get the right one, and that's obviously the hardest part. Get the right one. It's quick money.
And this is And end of the day, there's not a wrong answer. Like we can talk about Malgan. Mo's still going to average 60, 55, 60s. He didn't. And Titans had a shit year.
And that's what I mean.
They play ball again. He's running off. He'll be on foreign side, I suppose, or offloading to foreign. All of a sudden, he's got try involvements. And with AJ at fullback, all of a sudden, he might be a 55, 60 average. Alex Twal averaged 50 last year. He's a little bit cheaper. And he went in 2 games, I think he went off in the first minute. He got knocked out in the second minute one game. And the other one, he did his something else. So he's someone. And now the Tigers, from what they've said, from what I'm reading, is they want to play more ball movement footy. He'll start offloading again. He's someone. And Stefano disappeared last year, had injuries, and I just feel like it's a different setup to trying to be this grinding Maguire team to being a Sheens throw the ball around team running off Appy and having Bateman outside. You're calling for it all the time. You're going to be, I think they're guys that you'd look at. The last one I mentioned, just sort of interesting. What about a complete fresh start for someone like Jack Hetherington at 240K?
He's one that very potentially could end up in my side.
Like I think he's like 240.
And he's a dual as well.
He's a dual.
Yeah.
Another one,
266.
Ben Murdoch-Masila.
The Dragons,
got bugger all minutes at the Warriors.
Does score, and scores tries.
Dragons need front rowers. Like they're crying out for someone in their
pack. And that's what I mean. Like this is why I feel like the front row is where you can afford a gamble.
And
because
one I mentioned earlier was Walsh. Like he's coming back at, where is he? I think he's only around 460 or something. Like he's going to make you money, and he's probably one that you'll end up keeping for the year because he's going to average 60.
Yep. So yeah, there'll be at least two pop out, and then there'll be someone in the trials that earns themselves a spot.
A spot in your team. Oh, you're going to sign? Yes.
Yeah, that's it. And they'll be bottom dollar.
Any final words?
Don't go crazy.
Keep your powder dry in the front row.
Yeah. Save your money.
All right. Back row. The most hotly contested position on the field, probably. Dan, and where are you starting?
Angus.
Yep. Me too. I was going to hug my screen. It's weird because it's not actually Angus, but I just pat him on the head.
Yeah, no, Angus is, I think, the first biggie that'll. At worst, he doesn't score any less than what he just did at 66.
Yep.
That's my feeling. So everyone above him, I could see dropping. So you got Papali'i, Murray 71. He'll be thereabouts. Sean Lane, that was the breakout year. I mentioned it earlier.
Is there an issue with Lane now when you become a one-sided team? He's now just double-teamed, and we don't see shot. Like was Papali'i the key to Sean Lane being Sean Lane? Potentially,
but in saying that, that's exactly why I'm going Hopgood. He's the second rower that's coming over and meant to be taking Papali'i's spot. He'll be in my side. Angus is if you can afford more than one. Cameron Murray probably would be number 2. He doesn't matter who he plays. He does his job every game. His biggest worry is the head knocks, making sure he gets his head in the right spot.
Yeah. He's my number 1, Cameron Murray. Everyone that listens to this show for the last couple of years have heard it all before. My man love for Cameron Murray. I think he's close to the best player in the comp when he's on.
750 essentially fine with you?
Yep. Yeah, no, I'll cop that. Another one that I'm going to just try and plug in for the entire season. So if he doesn't miss too many games, I'm pretty happy to pay that price and go with him. It may end up biting me in the arse if he gets injured or whatever during the year, but that's the chance you take, I suppose. I've already mentioned Tino. He's going to swap between front row and second row, but he could be put in there. And then this is where I'm going to be looking for my money to be made. To be honest, you got three second rowers that you can just muck around with and try and make stupid amounts of money.
That's it.
A second rower that's starting at around 300K and is getting more minutes and starts averaging 60 goes to 600, 700 very quickly. So
and it's one of those positions where you can, you've got to get the right guy. They can score a double in a game, and all of a sudden they jump 100, 150K
in 2 games.
In 2 games, and then you just say, all right, see you later.
So speaking of scoring doubles, back to the Roosters, and yes, I agree. Angus Crichton was pretty much my first player picked. What about the Butcher Boys? Have they now jumped? I think they've jumped Tupanua. I think one of them starts. So. I always get them mixed up, so I'll tell you when the teams are announced. And I think one of them starts, and I think they score a lot of tries. I think there's going to be a lot of that. By their back end, they had perfected that grubber through for them. Swooping and both under 500, I think.
No, Nat's 580.
Nat's 580. My internet freezes.
Yeah, Nat's 580 and Egan's Egan's 480.
Yeah. So I think that's inflated. So there would have been 500 before we got here.
My one, if I'm looking around that price, my one, and again, I don't know if I could do it. Tarek Sims going to Melbourne.
What price is he?
He's 470.
I just don't know work-wise. Yes, he's a fantastic player and work very hard.
But that's so Bellamy's going to get him. Well, the defensive.
He's now going to be.
He's one of those guys. He's not going to lose points. Will they get him attacking an edge like they did Kenny and Felice? Because if they are, he's only going up.
He's a Bromwich. Yeah, he's a Kenny.
That's it. So he's only going up.
That's fair.
Whether I bring him in classic or whether he's just one of those guys
being out of the Dragon system,
goes up. That's 10 points in itself, isn't it? But he's one of those guys that mid-range that you're just like, oh geez, he could be worth a shout. Luke Garner moving from Tigers to Penrith. I think a lot of teams will have.
He's a fantastic hole hitter. I think he's going to be he could be borderline New South Wales player by the end of this year, just on fact he hits holes. Defensively, he'll learn a lot, but it'd be better for having people that can defend either side of him. That's often an issue. But his ability to, not for him, for the rest of the team he used to play in, the ability to hit holes, chase grubbers, play as a centre if he needs to. I think Garner at 430 is someone I'm looking to buy straight away because imagine he's starting and probably playing 80 minutes.
Yeah, average of 41. You'd think that'd go up to the 60s. So.
Yeah, so for sure. And any other notes I had quickly? Look, there's some base plays you just want to see where they go. Tapine disappeared for a year. I don't know where he's been. He's
got injured, got dropped. So I think there was an issue with the coach
but
at one point.
There seems to be suggestions he's back. I think even Gus tweeted about him the other day.
This is another one. So the Ray Stone, the duel, we chatted about him as hooker, but there's no chance you've, like, that's what I mean. There's so many more options in that second row that he doesn't even come into consideration when we're talking about your two RFs.
And you touched on Sean Bloor. He's 230K. He's missed a whole year. He's a forgotten player. If he starts, I imagine he starts on the bench, but he's destructive front row, destructive both positions when he
starts
plays.
playing more than 40 minutes.
But he could be an option down the road.
Absolutely.
Will Josh Schuster be in your side? He's another one that could be a 2RF, but are we saving him for the 5'8"?
Save him
for 5'8", yeah. Dylan Walker's an interesting one. Again, dual centre, second rower.
Does he get
going
more time
to a new
over
club? Yeah, that's what's interesting about him. It's where they end up playing him. I don't know whether he goes back to the centres, to be honest, for them, and plays in the centres. But
depends how that, like they're half, like they're a head case or
I know I mentioned Hopgood earlier, but Makatoa is the other one. If Hopgood doesn't get the spot, I think Makatoa
it was all over
does.
Makatoa last year, and then they didn't play him.
Yeah, and he's potentially that one. If Hopgood doesn't get it, I think he might. And
at first blush, I think they're high on Hopgood. I think it's good
so.
that, and he's going to have 4 games because Madison's not going to be there for a month.
Oh, I don't know what's happening there. They tried to pay the fine now.
I think they said no. They said bad luck.
Well,
so Hopgood's going to get to start. You're going to see him, and he's going to make.
Well, that could be a trap then. So you good, but Madison was coming off the bench, so it's.
There's another Baker coming through, Fletcher Baker.
Yeah.
There you go. It's 3 of them.
No, you're thinking of Butchers. Fletcher's always been.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Baker. Yeah, I was. Tyrone Peachy at Penrith. 290.
Nah, leave me out.
No.
I think he
probably doesn't play enough.
Let's wait and see. I think that's probably it for the back row. Anyone else really would jump on?
Nothing that's standing out.
Cam McGuinness, you know what you get. He's probably just a.
He's pretty well priced at what he's going to get. So if you want to get him and hold him for the year, you're going to get you're going to get that average of 60 or just under 60. But I can't see
without
him.
being a game breaker.
He was pretty good last year. I can't see him doing a hell of a lot more than what he did.
I think. Yeah, he sort of wish he was a hooker.
Scores a couple more tries, he might. He might bump it up a fraction, but I can't see him being he was good for the Sharks without being a superstar. So
yep. The halfback, probably not a lot to talk about some of these positions now, which is why we spent a lot on the front half. Barn, where are we starting with the 7s?
We've already spoken about the top 2, and they're probably, if you want to try and set and forget for the year, you're going to be going either one of those 2 at the top. If you're looking elsewhere, someone like Jerome Hughes has probably got a bit of improvement in him if he can stay on the field. He gets games where he does put out 100, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to rely on him a lot for points. Him and Munster, obviously, with the side being completely different. But
is there that general Melbourne concern? Or
I think you definitely want to wait and see how Melbourne are up and running. The majority of them seem to be priced pretty close to what they're going to give you for the majority of the year, to be honest. Reynolds is a tough one. Another one that it all depends on how his side's going. Like, he could go backwards dramatically very quickly depending on what happens with the Broncos.
Look, we didn't actually we didn't talk about Brisbane. Is there anyone in Brisbane you want to?
Ezra Mam, if he gets a full-time gig, is probably worth looking at.
True.
But
Carrigan. Is Carrigan someone on the radar? Or are you just avoiding Brisbane altogether as a?
I think Carrigan will give you what you expect out of him. I can see him improving.
If you like him and you like having a favourite player in your team, cool.
I can see him improving again on what he already put out last year, which was pretty.
That he's just paying out next to it.
Which was very good. Was of a very high standard. I can see him even improving on that. Tanner Boyd, if he gets a starting spot as you mentioned, you're pretty sure he's starting there. He's only at 380-odd thousand, so probably someone definitely worth looking at.
I think Sam Walker's the only one that improves.
Yep.
In that top 10.
Cool.
Ben Hunt, I don't. We'll read them off. So starting from 10, Ben Hunt with the Dragons. Don't think he gets much better than 55. Sam Walker's at an average of 59. I think that can increase.
I don't think he improves, but I don't think Jamal Fogarty's the worst at around 650 as a second.
His average of 62. I don't see it going up.
No, that's true.
To the point of, like, Mitch Moses.
He was very, very good the back end of last year, and he's a goal kicker, and a good goal kicker.
Like, Nathan Cleary goes up. Nathan Cleary averaging 80. I can see him going up.
Unless they fall off a cliff, yeah.
Yeah. Nico Hines, I think, drops. I think those two swap around. And then I think, but I do have those two, 1-2. And then Moses, Hughes, Cherry Evans, all between that 70 to down to 65. Jamal might join them. But I think the next one in that list that could join them is Sam Walker. He could, and you know, I don't know exactly on how much.
Does he kick next year as well? He kicks, doesn't he?
I don't know, but I don't. And the other thing is, I don't know how much 10 points gets you. 10, like an average of 10 extra points. I don't know how much that gets you in terms of money.
Yeah, your money makers are the guys who are right down the bottom of this list. Someone like Isaiah Katoa, if he does get a starting spot at the Dolphins at some point during the year, someone that you're probably going to pick up straight away if he does end up taking that halfback spot. And Ronald Volkman going to the Warriors. I know he only played a couple of games there for the Roosters. Looked like a half-decent halfback, and if he's starting for the Warriors at halfback, you would imagine that he averages more than 30-odd. So
when Moses signs for another club, Jake Arthur will be a good good choice at 234. Get some experience in the 7 jersey. But no. In all seriousness, though, it's one of those positions I feel like you could just go Nico, Cleary, and you're done for the season. And just when the buys come, you just bite the bullet.
Does Ilias improve at Souths?
Not enough to make it worth it.
34 and a half he's on.
I had him and I got rid of him. I was so happy I got rid of him.
Well, last year he started at 170, so you did make 200 grand on him by the end of the season.
But I got rid of him. I think he'd made about 80, and I was happy when I got rid of him then because that last 100 took 15 rounds.
Yeah, I was the same.
I can't see myself possibly ever touching Reynolds. I think he's either done, injury prone, or the Broncos have just head cases. Sean O'Sullivan's ridiculously overpriced. He'll lose 150k before he goes up. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a nice enough player, but they've got a lot of work to do. DCE's going to... We're talking about these for the sake of draft morning because let's be realistic. We're all going to be picking one of those top 3, maybe 4. And then if you had DCE or Ben Hunt in a draft, you're not unhappy. You just go Kendall.
If you had any of those top 10 in your draft side, you're not complaining. To an extent, Sean Johnson, even as a draft bench player, isn't the worst if you can get him on the right week.
Push it. He's fit and ready to go this year.
He's built quite well. But you know,
what's it all mean?
Exactly.
No, Fogarty was the sort of point of difference I had. Not necessarily from I want to jump in and buy him as a first choice, but I think he put out average of 60 in those last 10 games he played. I think goal kicking's good, but they're very like. Do you have a feel for Canberra this year, Barn?
I think they'll go around pretty much the same way as they did last year, to be honest. I don't see them improving a lot, and I think they're going to struggle to sort of scrape into the bottom of the 8. But Hastings at the Knights, someone who could improve by about 10, could start averaging 60, where he's been priced at 51.
That's what I mean. This is where I'm saying none of these are worth the gamble for him.
Still not going to end up making huge amounts of money.
No, that's right.
So if you're taking the gamble, you want it on somebody that's really low.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
right.
can make 200.
Like Volkman, if he's starting for the Warriors, should make 150, 200k.
If you knew Jock Madden was getting a start, I reckon he'd be 400 by the end of the year.
Jock Madden's a chance.
But you don't know who knows that guy.
Katoa's a big one for me. As soon as if he gets a start at the Dolphins, I'll be buying him straight away.
Does Hastings kick for Newcastle? Who kicks for him last year?
It'll be Ponga.
Ponga was kicking.
I think Hastings a better kicker.
Probably is.
Potentially, but Ponga gets to do what Ponga wants.
We'd argue,
Ponga's club.
That's it. Yeah, I guess Ponga's club, they're just part of it.
Realistically, we're not adding much more to this chat, are we? Let's move on. 5'8". Again, this is what are we going to add here? The top 10 are who they are.
I think Dearden improves, to be honest. I thought he improved out of sight last year, and I think there's a little bit more left in him, to be honest. If they're up and flying, I think he can improve on his average of 58 and be up somewhere near the top players and averaging, high 60s.
All the talks about Burton, I don't know.
I'll go in and bat. I'll say I think I am keen. I think I'm going to pick Matt Burton first choice because I think that left edge might take a game or two. I wouldn't panic early. If he's going to be running off or he's going to be feeding kick out and have Addo-Carr outside him, that'll be better for the run. It was their only trick play last year was him and Addo-Carr together. They're going to come back again, do the same thing. He was kicking goals by the end of the year. And he will average, I think he averages better than 60. I don't want to touch Cody. I think Cody
got to get him on his runs.
Very, very,
South will have 5 easy sides coming up, and that's when you go. I
trust him more. He's going to get better service from Reid. I think that of them, I'm happy to look towards him and quite comfortably. The other one, without touching the top 2 there, which are Munster and Brown, I think AJ now he's confirmed to be the fullback. I think does better than 64 as well. So until he loses duel, I'm actually sort of tempted to play around with him
I got a feeling the 5'8", I don't know why I just said seems to be difficult this year because I can't start with Munster or Brown. I think they're both too high to start with.
100%.
And I don't know where to go. And I was sort of thinking, I do agree Burton goes up, I just don't know by how much. And it's one of those positions, Schuster will be the other one, which we mentioned.
Well, we didn't properly, but he's 240K. He's been told he's playing 5'8". As a 5'8", you have to
we averaged 23 last year.
Exactly. And this is where Jock Madden could come in if he gets the start. I could see myself having 2 cheap 5'8s starting
right, and just go cut right back.
Cut right back. Another one of those positions where I know where I want to end up, and that's Munster, and if I can afford a second.
Yeah.
And how can I get Munster? Cut right back. Hopefully they make me money.
You get a bit of time to watch Melbourne as well, see how they're going.
Exactly.
Hopefully Munster drops a bit in price. Yeah, no, it's probably not a bad way to look at it, to be honest.
So Schuster's one, and then it's my second one. And if I'm kind of hoping somebody else does pop up.
Well, you mentioned him before as well. Sullivan, Bud Sullivan at the Dragons. If he's going to end up getting a starting spot, another one who's priced at a pretty low average and is around 320K.
320, yeah.
Average of 30. You'd think if he's starting every week, he'd be pushing at least 50.
You would hope so. You would hope so.
And what do you think about? Where's your starting point?
Oh, my starting point at the moment is Dearden. I think they've got a pretty good run at the start of the year. I think he will improve. I think he'll start the season on fire. May drop off a little bit.
I'd be going Dearden over Burton to start for sure.
And then, if he makes a little bit of money and Munster comes back down, obviously I think everyone will be trying to get to Munster. But by that time, you've had a good look at around and you'll probably see who's going best at that time and may end up sticking with Dearden. But I think I'll be starting with Dearden and then probably someone like Sullivan or the other one that you mentioned, Schuster, as the second option there to save some cash.
And very quickly, we haven't touched on Luai at all. We haven't touched on Dewey at all. No interest?
None whatsoever.
I don't know where Dewey fits really now in that Tiger side, to be honest. I don't know where they're going to play him, how they're going to play him, whether he goes back to centre or whether he, If he was starting at 5'8", I probably would be looking at him, but it doesn't look like that's the way that they're going to go with it.
Yeah.
And Luai's priced perfect, he's priced perfectly for what he gets.
Luai is what he is. Yeah. If he was at another club, he'd be averaging 35.
He'll have probably 2 games a year. That
That's it. He actually now doesn't have kick out. So if anything, Luai's going to drop.
He'll have 2 games a year where you'll get burnt by not having him, but the rest of the time you probably won't even notice. So
yeah, I think, and if you're from a draft point of view, if you're in a draft and you get a Brimson, Dewey, Dearden, sort of 4th, 5th, 6th picked, I think you're happy. I think you go, okay, it is what it is. You move on.
I think, draft-wise, I think 5'8" could be one of the toughest positions in terms of...
If you're not getting your top 3.
If you don't have... Pretty much if you don't have Munster-Brown.
Yeah.
In draft, it's going to be a tough one for you.
The CT Dubs. This is the most contested position on the field, obviously, 7 of them. But they're the point scorers. Where do we want to start here? I just...
Holmes, your money makers.
Holmes and 6 cheapies.
Generally, yeah.
That is the plan. Holmes, that's it. I think Holmes will be the leading CT Dub scorer. I will start with him, and I plan on having 6 cheapies.
And that's it. You'll go and see who that gets named. And
I will wait, see who gets
Dolphins
named.
Have named Wally Shitbags. And
I do not care. As long as they are cheap as cheap can be, I don't, and we don't know what a cheapie is yet.
Yeah, it'll be 200. It'll be
250.
Yeah, and that's it. But the idea is 6 cheapies that are starting that look like they've cemented their spot.
Yeah.
With Holmes. I might not win a couple of the head-to-head to start with, but I'll be making money
down the road.
Exactly.
But where's your end goal then? Are you looking for Joey? Are you looking for?
I think the end goal is
Sevo. You're looking for.
Well, I think the end goal is Manu, Holmes,
Campbell Graham,
Toto.
Hey, where is the biz?
I know. I just can't believe. I can't believe.
Average 50. Yeah. Average 59.3.
All the way down there.
624. 15th.
And I can see why people are starting with him because
Tago
of that.
went over the rim and so did Crichton.
Yeah, I can't see him staying that low. And
man, Stephen Crichton at another club goal kicking would have me
yes,
very excited.
And I can see South's probably coming home.
I agree with
South's coming home strong, so I could see Campbell Graham or Alex Johnson being there at the end. Ruben Garrick, if Tommy Turbo gets going, I could see why you would want him with the goal kicking. He could be, slotting.
Good goal kicker too.
Yeah,
Very
exactly. He could be getting anywhere from 20 to 40 points a game if Tommy can stay on the field.
Can sniff out a try too.
Exactly. But Holmes, Manu are definitely the top 2.
Pretty much the same. I think I'll put a little bit more money in there with the blokes I'll have him a starting lineup. I'll probably someone like Dominic Young. I expect to improve out of sight. He improved pretty much every game last year. Looked even better come World Cup time. And if they can get some decent ball out to him, I expect him to improve on what he's priced at the moment. Someone like Jesse Ramian and Brian Toto, they're both around the same sort of spot. I can see both of those guys improving on what they did last year. But then it'll be cheapies all the way from there. You'll be looking at, some low prices, anything sort of 300 and under, and people that are going to be making you a good 150, 200 grand before you can, swap them out for someone else.
Now, I agree. Look, I've my first team pick a crack. I've managed to crowbar Manu and Holmes in.
Yep.
And they'll be set and forgets, and they'll be who they are. But Val would be number 1 seed if I had to pick one. Nick Meaney. Now, we know that... We don't know what Pappy's getting. If we are prognosticating that Pappy's starting on the bench, does Nick Meaney kick?
You would think so.
And also start there and perhaps gives you an interesting
a flying
POD.
Start to the year. If you can get a month in, then you can get a price change out of him. Yeah.
But I actually didn't even look at Biz because I thought he would just be...
Too
there
much.
He is. He's 600. Well, maybe I need to revisit that.
Am I looking at this right? Jared Croker, goal kicking for the Canberra Raiders. At 200.
Is he going to get a game?
If he
game?
plays,
no,
I'm just thinking. Just
if
have
he
a
gets
quick
a
look
game,
there.
absolutely.
He's somebody.
He's better than 279.
Oh, he's a 400 player plus.
Well, 400, yeah. Look, we're saying we want to fill the team with cheapies. Is there anyone off the top of your head?
Chan stands out to me like a beacon, to be honest.
Yeah.
Change your club.
Yeah.
If he ends up
he's playing fullback.
Playing fullback for the Warriors.
And
Jewel, fullback centre wing.
Hammers the other one.
$327,000. He got really no use out of him at Canberra last year. You've seen what he can do, ball in hand. He's a very good attacking player.
Yep.
I don't know how much the hammer is.
Well underpriced. So he's just above him at $330,000.
Yeah, both Jules, I can see if they both get the starting fullback, they're both going up.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Paul Alamotti at the Bulldogs.
Alamotti's someone who's been on our radar for a year.
Should get a full-time crack at the squad this year.
Yep.
He's only 200K. He starts playing. He gets 5, 6, 7 games. He'll be 400. You would imagine.
A couple of he was one. A couple of cheapies I was looking at. The other Fay guy, or Fay and A.
Yeah.
He missed last year for whatever it happened.
Matt and Max, isn't it?
Yeah. But he was just as good as his brother, and I don't know the wing rotation at the Dragons these days, but if he gets a start, he's talented, and at a base price, he's injured. Kyle Iro.
Yes, the Sharks.
Any thoughts on him?
I can't see him getting a spot, mate. If the Sharks backline's fit, he's not getting picked over Katoa, Ramian, Mulatano.
He's 2 that might be starting fullback.
Bailey Hodgson.
378 for Charlie Staines and 370 for Hayes Perham.
Where's Hayes playing? Para?
No, the Bulldogs. Fullback.
What? Is Para playing?
He's gone to the Bulldogs.
He was.
Right.
Yes.
So he's
So-
got to be in front of Shoop and Kiraz, surely.
Let's talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Phil Gould. You can never trust what he says, but there's talk he's been training at fullback.
Is there?
Jack Bostock is apparently a very talented kid. It's up at the Dolphins. May end up finding himself a centre wing position.
Look, I'm looking at
And Jack Harworth, who we already mentioned at the Storm, I expect him to be playing back row. He's at 200k as well, and if he's playing back row at the Storm, he's must have, I think.
100%.
Jamin Salmon now is probably pushing towards a starting spot in that Penrith team. He's 260.
What position?
Dual. CT
Yeah, but where does he start? It'd be Garner's spot. He's not taking.
Well, there you go.
That's it.
That's true. Yeah.
That is cheapy. Bottom dollar's 208.
208's
Yeah.
bottom dollar. Alamonte, if he's in and around, is a future star. Tommy Talau, missed all last year. Tackle breaker, big body, can catch, can run, can pass. He's still priced appropriately. He's 300, but if he plays and he's running, he'll be on probably the right side, I'd say. So he's run off Bateman. Mm-hmm. He's in that discussion for sure.
But any of these guys that are at that bottom dollar, though, if they're starting and it's not because of an injury to a main player, I think every side has them.
They'll
you would
pop
think
up.
so.
Exactly. Like, you know,
Are there any traps like Talakai? They need to work out what they're doing with Talakai.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
He'd be
think that
staying in the centres, but
But
at the
way they
back
trade
end of
him,
the year, they were playing him as a front rower.
yeah,
So
like just put him in the bloody front row.
the traps are those types of players where, you know, you've got a main guy that's going down and they say, oh, it could be a 5-week injury and he's back in 2. Or it's those potentials like, is Charlie Staines actually going to be fullback? He might play round 1 there, but
how
I don't
long
think he does.
Does he keep a spot?
yeah,
there?
and
I think
Hayes Perham, if that something like that does happen, do
We're
they
going
stay
to
there?
learn for the trials, and I think Staines he's 380.
Yeah.
I think he's fine, but I think he starts on the wing, and I think he'll be fine. But I don't.
But he's not worth
I wouldn't
buying
train
on the
him as
wing.
fullback when I'd rather have Tommy Talau for 100k cheaper.
Yeah.
Bloke at South, very talented youngster as well, Tyrell Kalo. Probably doesn't get a spot to start the year, but if he gets a good run, 4 or 5 weeks, be somebody worth looking at because he's going to make you money. He's at the bottom dollar.
That's
But
it.
And a couple of new clubs. Ewan Aitken now at the Dolphins.
He'd be priced at pretty much
He's
what you're going to get out of him, I
that's
think.
down,
wouldn't
580.
you?
That's about it. Is what it is.
Yeah, I think so.
And Marzu
Going to get you your 50.
can Marzu grow a leg
Marzu
at
should
the
improve.
Knights?
Yeah, absolutely. Depends on. I don't know if he's got a personality issue and he keeps getting pushed out of teams or what. But if he gets a sustained run at the Knights, yeah, I would imagine he'd improve.
But basically, Val and them will work the rest out. Is what
Val
you're
and
saying.
Manu are the two big guns, I think, that you'd be looking at.
All right, fullback. Wrap this up with who it is. Teddy, 836k, average of 80. Second owners Latrell and Pappy. Is he just number one and then
For
we
me,
worry
he
about
is.
it later?
Look at the
Has he
points.
now- has
Look
he now
at the
become-
point difference.
Last year was so funny where Tommy was the number one draft pick and all the drafts are in, and oh my God, is
How
he now
funny
number
was
one
that?
again?
Yeah, I
Or
think
is
so.
Cleary
I've got Cleary.
at draft pick?
I've
number
got
one?
if I was to get draft pick number 1, I've got Cleary. I
I don't think you'd be upset if you got Teddy, though.
He'll be fine. Yeah.
You wouldn't be upset with Teddy, and this is where we were talking. It's drafts. You've got to be a little bit different with draft because, like we chatted about 5/8s. There's really 2 or 3, and same with hookers. There's only a couple.
You want who you want. Yeah.
You need to.
Get him early.
That's
Draft's a
it.
different
It's
world
sort of
in-
like if
in-
you miss Teddy, the rest of them average out over the season fairly evenly because Pappy and Latrell are always injured.
Yeah, you're probably only going to miss 10 points or so.
You know,
yeah.
exactly. It really is. I've got Cleary, I've got Teddy, and then it really is open to, oh crap, I need to get a hooker before they run out, or 5/8 before they run out.
Yep. Draft is such an interesting beast this year.
Draft does
Looking
my
forward
head
to
in.
it. Well,
Draft, yeah, because
it's fun, but it is what it is. Yeah, so like, what do we say here? Realistically, Tommy Turbo priced at 570. If they tie his legs back on and a plasticine all works, then
I think
fantastic
Manly
price.
have. I
Absolutely
believe
it
Manly
is.
had the
I can-
bye round
It's
3,
a
so
stupid
you can
price if they
you
get him
can
back
wait.
on the field.
I think
Yeah.
I think you can wait.
But
with
right
Manly.
now in my team picker, I've got Teddy and Tommy, and I'm pretty comfy. If
Yeah.
all their legs are attached and their arms work, then how happy am I? I don't even need to think about it again.
So
but
Teddy saved. Sorry,
do we trust that? Like, how
not
do you
having
trust
Turbo
that?
last year helped me because while
Yeah.
everyone jumped back on, I didn't touch him. Then he got injured. It just saves those extra
Yeah, it was a
trades.
stupid price last year too. So he was
Oh no, I
1.2
mean once he
or
come back
something.
from that injury, then he got
Yeah,
injured again.
yeah.
2 or 3 games, whatever it was. It just by not going him, save me that massive thing. You mentioned it earlier, like the Gutherson effect. At what point do you jump on him for his 5 games? You got to find it.
No, don't.
Scott Drinkwater would be one at the start with that Cowboys run that could be worth the gamble.
See, I tried that and it just never felt right. No, but like he just never.
But he's not your number one. Again, it's more you're buying him. He's not to be. He's to be one of your reserves. So you know.
All right. Well, Panthers fans will scream if we don't talk about him. Dylan Edwards.
Not Supercoach relevant in terms of classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's 2 or 3 other blokes that you're going to pick before him. If you've only got exactly 701,200 left in your bank account, then you're probably going to go and get him.
Yeah, but it's like those 6 that are ahead of him, I'm keeping ahead of him.
And I actually think AJ jumps him this year. Supercoach
AJ, and depending on how long Pappy's out for, Nick Meaney jumps in.
AJ played in the wrong spot all last year, still averaged 64, gets back to where he needs to be.
Tessie New could jump
spine.
in if he gets a good
Turbo jumps him.
Fullback, but
if
Turbo
he
just
stays,
stands out
if
like
he stays
an
on the
absolute
field.
Turbo just stands out like a
great
beacon
player,
of price.
but Supercoach.
I think Caleb Ponga jumps him if he stays on the field.
So,
yeah, Turbo stands out like a sore thumb here.
Yeah, but the price absolutely he does. Another one, I mentioned Chance in centre wing, but he's also a fullback dual. So he's probably going to be my second fullback just to save a little bit of money to start the year and hopefully make me some with Teddy as my main guy. But
Hammer's 330 for you, asking him.
Yeah, 330 and
He's dual.
Ideally, I'd have both of those in my CT dub, but I can see a team where one of them ends up as my second fullback.
Yeah, just because you can get a few more cheapies into your centre wing.
Yeah, just to get that extra. And I would almost be confident playing one of them in my 17 to start the season. Yeah. That's the other part. That's the other part of having that, you've got to pick 4 reserves that you're happy with.
Yeah.
And normally they're not your forwards. Because your forwards are your money makers.
And just scrolling right to the bottom for the sake of it, Bailey Hodgson apparently is first choice Newcastle fullback. Big call.
Okay.
We'll see.
But again, he's a CT dub, so he's one of those ones where you could float.
Does Corey Allen get a start at the Roosters in the centres?
I don't know. Does he?
I don't know. It's my asking.
I don't think he does.
Manu Swiley.
Not the start.
No, he doesn't. Manu Swiley. Well, he comes in against. He's probably ahead of Momorowski and
maybe ahead of Momorowski.
And Nguama's gone.
Depends how they've been training. We've got a Rooster supporter here.
Who starts centres for the Roosters? Does Corey Allen start centre for the Roosters? You're supposed to be the guest expert.
You're the Roosters? Come on. All right. We'll forget that.
No. Probably Swai and Manu start centres. Tupou and who? Swiley, whatever his name is these days. Where's he gone?
Swiley? No, he didn't.
This is good radio. No, he hasn't.
Let's plug on.
This is why you don't ask Roosters fans, because they don't attend games. They don't know anything.
He's not gone.
If the Roosters aren't in the grand final, they don't show up.
And does Tarava get a... Exactly. Does Tarava get a sniff at penalty?
Unfortunately, I don't think he does, no. Apart from injury through Edwards.
Tango May, Crichton is in front of him.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
The one I'd like to see get a lot of game would be Lachlan Miller, but I just don't see it happening.
I want him to play 5'8", but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Well, he's if he gets named, he's fullback centre wing, so he's somebody that could definitely be.
Yeah, well, he's averaging 60-odd every time he played.
That's what I mean.
Footwork's fantastic, good pace. I don't understand why you wouldn't be looking at him at 5'8", to be honest.
He'd be one that by the end of the year you'd want in your centre wing if he gets a starting position.
There's still talks he might end up in Newcastle yet as their fullback. So,
huh? Yeah, who's the other centre? There's 2. Yeah, all right.
Roosters are only playing with 12 this year.
Yeah, apparently.
Good.
All right. Let's wrap this up. All right, is there a must-have, a pod, and a cheapie you want to stamp right now?
I think we've mentioned most of them, to be honest.
Final word. Anyone hey, this is who I'm starting my
team.
Well,
I'm big with Chance. I think he'll be a very good POD, to be honest, playing fullback for the Warriors. I know there'll be games where he probably won't score a lot because they won't score many points, but there'll be games where he will chime in really well and score some points there.
Barney's potentially talked me into Dearden because I'm not so big on that Matt Burton hype train. Barney may have talked me into going Dearden. I already love the Cowboys start, which is why I'm going Holmes.
I think Holmes is a must-have.
Yeah, so Holmes is a must-have, and if I'm backing him as a must-have, and I'm not too happy with the other 5/8s, Dearden very well could be my 5/8.
Got a cheapie? No.
I think I mentioned him 3 or 4 times, but if Allworth gets a start at Melbourne, he's definitely one that you want to be on. And Katoa at the Dolphins, if he gets a spot there, I think he was talked about as one of the best young halves running around in the game.
Yeah.
And
I think it's
he's moved up there.
I don't like talking Eels up because I try not to have him in my side.
We all do anyway.
Yeah, but I think it's Hopgood. If he does start, well, I try not to have him in my side at all. Because the second I bring him in, they go to shit.
And a pod.
A pod, the biggest. Well,
while you think about that,
if it happens,
I think I agree. I think Val is just about first picked. I think Tommy Talau at the 300's a great centre option, and I'm going to stick with the Tigers theme and say Sean Blaw back row. Hopgood, I agree. And Garner going to Penrith, massive. He'll be a 600k player by the end of the year. First,
if I've got the courage to do it, the pod's Appy.
Okay, you call him pod Appy then, which is fair.
I don't think Appy would be. I'm going to assume less than 5% to start this year.
Yep.
Tom Young for me. I think there'll be a fair few people that will grab him, but as I mentioned, I think the Knights have got a pretty soft start for the first month. And he's impressed me. Like over the last 12 months, he's grown as a footballer amazingly. And at 520, I think he ends up 650 by 7 or 8 rounds into the game. So
yeah, and I'll just make one more mention of my Angus Crichton love. At that price, he's priced out of the top 10 back rowers, and he's a top 10 front back rower.
Exactly.
So
definitely one of those.
Thank you, boys. Nearly 2 hours of us rambling on. We're back. Thanks for joining us. Check out rugbyleaguemerch.com to buy hats and shirts and all sorts of cool stuff. And check out our socials. We're still on Twitter for some reason because it's an absolute clusterfuck these days.
Alamotti as well.
Oh, Paul Alamotti.
Paul Alamotti. Definitely a cheapie that you want to have in the centre wing position if he's starting.
If he's around, yeah, absolutely. And Sonny Luke.
Buy shirts and hats and stuff.
Buy shirts and hats because we need monies. And thank you, Damon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, we'll do it again at some point.
Very
we'll get
good.
back on. What do I need to plug? I don't know. Whatever. Rugby League merch. PCTC. We'll have a footy tipping comp going again soon. Jump on our Facebook. That's where we'll put up our Super League when it goes live. Last time it filled in about 3 minutes, so stay tuned. We'll probably, as soon as it's live, it'll be up within a day. So keep an eye to that page. Then we'll be back in around 2 weeks. I believe we're going to do our full season preview, which go even longer, if you can believe it. On Daggy's deck, so Barney can come sit on my nice hard deck and eat some of my pork, which would be lum. So we're going to do that. Then it's trial time. Then we're into it. It's footy season.